If I hit play, we have twice as many particles being emitted, and if I draw a render region, we can see the effect thicken up a little bit. I may also want to go and increase the overall size of the particles as well, but first I'm going to try and manage the thickness of the particles by working the particle shaper itself. So back to the irregular shape and the cell shape, along with the fractal shape to thicken the lookup. Bring the texture scale down a little bit as well too. So since I'm not seeing any improvement in the spacing between the particles, I'm going to use the overall size that's driven by the randomized value by range node or compound, and I'm going to increase the min value to a minimum value of 1 and the max value to a value of 1.5. Now if I play through again, here you start to see a slight change to the look of the overall effect. This is going to start to pose a bit of a problem because we have some particles actually flying away. And you can tell they're flying away because the point cloud is selected, and as we step through the animation, you can see that the point cloud gets bigger at some frames before shrinking back again. So what's happening here is the fault, or not the fault, but a result of one of the attributes from the emit splash from surface collision. If I was to actually render this effect now, let's say at frame 13, and if I just truck out a little bit, we should see the volumetric effect throw an error. It should turn red. Well, actually, it's working out just fine here. But what the volumetric effect is trying to do at this point is it's trying to create a volume between the particles that are sitting underneath Mulcore's feet. And if I just enter tag point mode, you can see that there's a point right here, point 175, that's kind of straight away from us. And by stepping through the rest of the simulation frame by frame, you can see there are some particles that get even further away. So in a case like this frame, again, I can't even get it in my field of view, it's so large. If I draw a render region here, let's see if we can, there we go. Anytime you get a red frame like this, which you would come across when you actually render, this is telling us that the volumetric effect is simply just running out of memory. If you look down at the bottom of our interface, which has disappeared now, I'll just jump into the script editor, we can see that we're getting a bit of a warning. With the current settings in the lookup table, the amount of memory used would be almost 4 gigs. So the lookup table gets set to a minimal array size with 0 interpolation. Now what that means, if I jump back into the material manager and click on my dust material, what's happening is that these values here are being overridden. And what I want to do is cull out some of the particles that have strayed away on me. And the easiest way to do that is to jump back into the emit splash from surface collision compound and adjust one of the values found under direction and speed. There's a multiplier here called the spread speed multiplier that when set to any value above 0 multiplies the speed and the spread at which the particles move away from their emission, from where the splash occurs, where the feet and ground are. So if I take the spread speed multiplier and I set that to 0 and I step through, we don't have quite the same problem. We do get a few particles that are jumping away on us. Again, I could go in and set the randomness factor down a little bit lower. And now if we look at the frame that represents the farthest spread of particles, so I'll just kind of step through here, just using the frame by frame slider. Frame 31 represents the particle that is furthest away, and if I draw a render region here, you can see that we don't have any problems with our rendering. Everything seems okay. And if I step through a few more frames, let's see if there are any frames that have particles getting too far away from us. We should be okay. Yeah, the last frame is 58 or 56. So we're in good shape now, and now we can focus on getting the rest of the effect looking good.